Great. So again, just to let everyone know that we will be recording this session. And so welcome everyone. Thanks so much for, on behalf of JDRF, we'd like to join you today. And for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Danielle. I work with the volunteer and community engagement team here at JDRF. And thank you again so much for taking the time to join us this evening at the Let's Talk T1D education series. And so we're really excited tonight to present you with information on how to stay connected over the holidays and the winter months. And to give you a rundown of the evening, our speaker, Michael Watts, who I'll just introduce in a moment, he's going to be talking for about 45 minutes for his discussion, and then we'll open up to any questions that you might have. And for anyone who's joining us tonight, and this is the first time that you've joined an event with JDRF, we are a global leader in working towards the end to type 1 diabetes. And we're doing this through research funding, advocacy, and we also do provide supports to people and families in the type 1 diabetes community from the time of diagnosis. And we help everyone to have healthier and better lives while we work to find a cure. And so since the times of COVID-19, we have not been able to get together in person. So to make sure that we were able to stay connected, we created the Let's Talk T1D series that you're a part of tonight. And there's two components to the series. The education series, which is happening this evening, provides information on a new topic each month. And we'll have all the updates on our website about upcoming topics. And we will be having a flash glucose monitoring evening with special guest Abbott, and that's going to be happening on January 19th. And then we do also host what we call a connection series, and it's a little more informal. It's on the fourth Wednesday of each month, and it's an unstructured opportunity to connect with others. There's no formal programming. And again, visit jdrf.ca and all the information is there. We're not hosting it in December just because it falls really close to the holiday season. And so a few technical items for tonight. Once I pass it over to Michael, people are more than welcome to keep your cameras on, but if you're more comfortable to turn it off, please feel free to do so. And I would ask that everyone go on to mute, which you can find at the top of your screen. It looks like a little kind of old-fashioned microphone, and I can help to mute people. And then just if you do have a question, you'll just need to take yourself off mute. If you're not quite, if you have a question and maybe you're not comfortable raising it in through speaking, that at the very top as well, you will see it looks like a little thought bubble. And then there's a chat there, and you're more than welcome to put any questions in the chat, and we will be getting to as many questions in the chat as we can. I think it's we're a fairly small size group tonight, which is great for some wonderful and interactive conversation. So we should be able to hopefully get to as many questions as we can. And so please note that the series that we're having tonight, it's designed to have discussions around type 1 diabetes, and it might paint a very real picture of the challenges, particularly right now as we head into winter months, and we're still dealing with COVID-19. If you do find that it's too much or you feel overwhelmed, it's completely understood, and please feel comfortable if you have to leave or wish to come back into the meeting. And we will, again, as I mentioned, we're recording the session and it's going to be available if you wanted to watch it again on a later date. It will be available on JDRF's YouTube channel. And so without further ado here, I would like to introduce tonight's speaker, Michael Watts, who is a medical social worker and sessional university instructor in Calgary. And Michael is trained as a therapist with his areas of expertise including at-risk youth, mental health, substance misuse, individual, group, and family therapy, and psychosocial issues related to adolescents and families impacted by type 1 diabetes, chronic respiratory challenges, and weight and health issues. And so that concludes my my intro here. So Michael, if you would like to put your slides up on the screen, thank you so much again and welcome.
My pleasure. Let me just get set up here. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, perfect. It's kind of awkward because I can't see anyone, but that's okay. I'll just believe everyone is out there. Good evening, wherever you are in the great country of Canada. As Danielle said, I do have about 11 years of working in type 1 diabetes, amongst other chronic conditions that children and adolescents live with. So tonight, I just wanted to take some time and just share some thoughts that I have around staying connected during the holidays. Given we are all impacted by COVID at some level, so given the backdrop, given the realities of living through a pandemic, I wanted to dedicate the first slide to just awareness around mental health and being mindful of, or feelings and emotions, and being mindful of that, especially as parents, because I have two of my own, 22 and 18. And it's interesting because when they're young, it's like, wow, you have to pay for sports and daycare. And, once they get older, we don't have to pay, we don't have to worry about them financially anymore. But I'm finding the older they get, the more expensive they're getting for whatever reason. Maybe that's me and their mom's issue. But I do know as a parent, especially a parent living with parenting a child that has a chronic condition, there's a lot on the plate. I mean, you have mortgages, you have rent, you have car notes, you have other financial responsibilities, practical responsibilities, dealing with folks at work, and now all of a sudden it's going to come to a halt at some level due to the holidays. And this is a time, hopefully, for everyone attending tonight, that we can put all our, worry and stress and day-to-day stuff aside and really embrace and enjoy our family, despite the climate out there. If it's the political climate or the health and wellness climate with the pandemic, I think that this is going to be a great holiday season where we can reconnect with our families. It's going to look different, but I really believe it's going to be a good holiday in 2020. So that said, Danielle said it's a very intimate group. So please, by all means, if you have a question, just feel free to interrupt me, or you can send a question through the chat technology, and Danielle will let me know there's a question, and I'll do my best to address it. So I'm just going to dive right in. I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. Okay. I thought to myself, do I really want to start out with this slide first? But I think it's important just to be mindful that everyone who's, I believe everyone who's, engaged in this presentation tonight at some level is, experiences these feelings, if it's day to day or, weekly at some level, if it's related to, again, work, family, your child, and their safety, et cetera, et cetera. I just think it's important to be mindful that these feelings are real and they're yours. And it's important, from my clinical experience, it's important to embrace these feelings. They're kind of a pain in the neck sometimes, but when we resist these types of feelings, we tend to avoid. And when we avoid, we internalize. And when we internalize, that means we're not talking to anyone about how we're feeling. And then we do that, we can set ourselves up for uncharacteristic behaviors, irritability, perpetual anger, sadness, et cetera, et cetera. I want to show you a quick diagram regarding the importance of expressing yourself if you are dealing with any of these going into the holidays. Just give me a sec to drop this diagram. And Danielle, if you can let me know if you can read this. I'm on the whiteboard here, so if you can let me know if you can read this, that'd be great. Just give me a sec. I'm going to drop the diagram and move my computer a little bit closer. Can everyone see that?
So, Michael, if you take your slides down just for a quick moment,
makes sense.
That will help.
Okay. Let me go back. Okay.
And just at the top, if you click on the down arrow,
Where it says give control.
it should be at the top, and then just click where the share content, where you uploaded it. If you click it again, it'll stop sharing your slides.
Okay. Here, I need to. Sorry, folks. This Google Teams is new to me. Okay, what am I doing now?
So at the top, right beside your microphone, you should have a button with a square and an arrow.
It says stop sharing now. Hit that.
Yes.
Okay. How about now?
Okay, you're a little better. We can see that a little higher up. There we go.
Okay. Looks okay?
Yeah, as long as you tell us about it.
my messy writing. Okay, so the importance of, especially as parents, and young people go through this as well, it's in the context of internalizing. And this circular causality, it's a clinical, it's called cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's basically cognitive CBT is it's predicated on the belief that us humans tend to act based on how we think. And this is all evidence-based, an evidence-based modality. And the reason I want to start with this again, this slide is if we go into the holidays or dealing with some of these feelings and emotions and we don't externalize or talk about how we're feeling, if it's with our partner, if we have a therapist or a trusted person, we can run the risk of developing irrational perceptions. I like to use the term marinate. If, again, people who tend to internalize, it's like a steak, and I hope I don't offend any vegetarians out there. You can substitute steak for tofu, but if you season steak or tofu for a couple of hours or a day or two, it intensifies the taste of the meat or the tofu. And it's the same thing with our thoughts. If we internalize things that are causing us, worry, anxiety, or whatever the case may be, if we internalize, we're consciously or unconsciously thinking of those things, those thoughts and things that are hampered or festering us or bothering us. And when that happens, when we internalize, what happens is we run the risk of developing irrational perceptions about ourselves, about our kids, about our job, irrational perceptions about the world. As an example, we are driving down the street and someone accidentally cuts you off, and your perception is, oh, they're cutting me off because they think I'm not deserving of having my own space on the road. And when in actuality, that person's cut you off on accident because they're rushing their partner to the hospital to give birth to a kid. So it's just important to realize that when we do internalize and we don't talk to folks, we do develop the risk. And risk doesn't connote certainty. It connotes there's a probability. You start to develop irrational perceptions about yourself, about how the world works, et cetera, et cetera. More time goes on, we have these thoughts that we're not communicating. We have these perceptions. We run the risk of developing irrational beliefs. Beliefs, again, about ourselves, beliefs about our relationships, beliefs about our place at work, beliefs about, extended family. And if we're not mindful, those, and this is where, in my opinion, this is where it starts to get a little bit scary, when we start to entertain irrational beliefs about certain things. And what I'm getting at, folks, and I'll get to the behavioral piece in a moment, going into the holidays, if we're having this perpetual cycle of these thoughts, perceptions, beliefs, and we're going into the holidays, how is that going to impact? I don't know this question. I mean, I do, but I'll let you think about that. How's that going to impact our desire to want to connect with extended family members, with our children, with our partners going into the holiday season? So we have these thoughts, perceptions, beliefs, and then the last point here is the behavior piece. And the behavior could look like, irritability or withdrawal, or, anger, or for some people shopping, for some people excessive cleaning, et cetera, all based on the fact that we're not communicating those feelings and emotions that we're experiencing, if we are experiencing those types of feelings and we're not communicating. So I wanted to start off setting the tone that we're going into unprecedented Christmas time with COVID as the backdrop. And I want to focus on COVID moving forward in this presentation, but I believe it's important that people, especially parents, again, are mindful of the fact that it's important to express how you feel versus internalizing, because it can create an unpleasant thought process for yourself. And believe it or not, your kids are perpetually watching you. People think two-year-olds understand more than they can articulate, but they even know at that age, they look at nonverbal behavior, and if they see a sad look on mom or dad's face or whoever, they know something's not right, and that can cause them stress as well. So we have to, it's important as parents that we're, in terms of our mental health, that we lead the way going into this difficult holiday season. If it didn't make sense to you, let Danielle know, and I will certainly come back to it. But let me share my slides again. Can you all see that? Danielle?
Not yet.
Okay. I think I need to, sorry folks, this is just the world we live in now. I'm used to Google or Google Meets or Zoom. I'm not too proficient with this. I will be. Just give me a sec. I'll pull it back up.
And let me know if it's not working, and I can pull my copy up for you, and you'll just have to tell me to advance the slide.
Okay. No, it should work now. Appreciate everyone's patience. Like, isn't this guy a professor? He should know this stuff. Like, no, I don't know. I don't use Google. I don't use Teams. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, I was good, wasn't I?
You're good.
Okay, there we go. Okay, we can all see again. Slideshow. Okay, so again, just the importance of making sure we communicate. If we all at some level experience these at differing levels, but I always say a problem is a problem when it creates problems. And if any of these feelings or emotions, if people are going through any of these, if it's impacting your relationships with family, friends, and impacting your day-to-day responsibilities like work, community work, whatever you might be doing, if any of these are getting in the way of your day-to-day psychosocial functioning, it's important that you talk to somebody. If you have, again, a trusted advisor or family member or a therapist, it's important to express yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is look at connection from 4 domains. Some people understand these 4 domains as the indigenous medicine wheel, and I like to pay homage to the originators of the medicine wheel, but I'm not going to necessarily go that direction. I'm just going to make it a little bit more practical. So I'm going to look at mind, body, spirit, and emotions in a more practical manner. So just in terms of connecting with your partner and your kids and your family during the holidays, it's important to, again, be mindful of the mental health during this this unprecedented 2020 holiday season. And what does that mean? I always use the phrase making sure you put fuel in these diverse tanks. And the first tank is the mental health, or the mental tank. And the mental tank could mean anything from watching meaningful documentaries. Kids might not want to hear this, but helping them with their schoolwork. If they have school assignments over the holiday break, doing crossword puzzles, having intellectual conversations, anything that keeps the mind mentally stimulated, very important. I mean, obviously there should be some time for, downtime where everything's not, intellectually based and whatnot, but it is important to keep the mind stimulated. And I put on the 3rd point, protect your mind as well. It's when I say protect your mind, if there's, during going into the holiday season, if there's things that, for a lot of people, this is the most difficult time of the year for whatever reason, if it's family of origin issues or just the fact that, there's research that suggests December, Christmas months could be a tough time for a lot of people mentally and emotionally. And if there are thoughts that pop into your mind during the holidays, it's important to protect your mind, because if you entertain those thoughts, from maybe it's unaddressed family issues, if you entertain those thoughts and it's going to ruin your holiday, which may interfere with your time with your family and loved ones, it's important to protect your mind. In my clinical world, we have a term called thought stopping, which basically means if there are thoughts that are popping up that cause you distress, stop those thoughts, have a conversation with someone, do some journaling, do a distraction, go for a walk or journal what those thoughts are about and what you could do differently so you're not entertaining those thoughts. So that's what protect your mind means. But the mental piece, putting fuel in your mental tank during the holiday season in the context of connection, is just being mindful of trying to stay in the moment, which we struggle with. I'm not sure how many of you are from Alberta, but I'm assuming it's just across the board, across the country, where we have a hard time staying in the moment. For whatever reason, that rat race is a real deal. I've been doing this intervention the last month and a half or so, and encourage my students to do it as well. It's just in the context of working on patience and mindfulness. And what I've been doing is driving, making sure I drive the speed limit. I know here in Alberta, a lot of the roads are, the freeways are 110 or 100, and like busier streets are like 80 kilometers an hour. And I try to maintain that speed. And it's amazing how many nasty looks you get, and people just zipping around you and flying down the freeway or the street when all you're doing is doing the speed limit. And I do that purposely for me as an exercise to work on patience and like staying in the moment, which is all part of, keeping that mind stimulated and keeping that mind healthy. And these are just some, like I said, watch meaningful documentaries, intellectual conversations. These are just a few examples of things you can do to keep your mind sharp during the holidays, which is going to hopefully preserve that connection with your family. Physical health, pretty straightforward, and obviously this is important for the young people who live with diabetes, and obviously making sure they have sufficient amounts of food and insulin and whatnot before they engage in physical activities. But as a family, I say connect physically as a family. If you're already doing these things, excellent, keep doing it. If you're not, I'd encourage you as a family to, during the holidays, try to go for a walk. I build a fort in the living room. I mean, I'm not sure how old people's kids are, but I know if mom and dad are in there, tearing up the living room and building forts, and you have some popcorn and watch a movie, those are kind of memories that kids, are going to last a lifetime. And that's, that you're actually physically doing something, building a fort, moving furniture, and you're connected with the family at the same time. Watch a holiday movie as a family, cook together. I think that's important on a number of different levels, especially having a young person that lives with diabetes, just in terms of, the counting the carbs and, what constitutes creating a fine balance between, because the kids have to have some healthy or unhealthier snacks from time to time. But I think this validates their need to, have, or it builds trust, and it validates their need to, when they're having to eat a more healthy diet, when they're able to cook together, and we'll designate these 2 days for cheat days, where you can, making sure you take proper amounts of insulin and count the carbs. On these couple days we can do this in terms of diet. But I think cooking together, there's so many protective factors when families are able to do that, especially during the holidays. I know I grew up I'm from Los Angeles in the States, and I'm not sure about the diverse backgrounds of the people I'm talking to tonight, but I know in my culture, it's like, what, get out of the kitchen. This is grandma's domain or mama's domain, and you go and do whatever. And, growing up, I wish I had more opportunities to be in the kitchen and, cook with my mom or my grandmother or whoever. But the irony is now that's one of my favorite passions is cooking. I'm a pretty good cook. And my kids, actually, we cook together all the time. And that's such a great bonding time with family. So that's something that you can do physically to connect with your young person. Go tobogganing, work out. Unfortunately, working out might look a little bit different. I'm not sure how many of you are in Alberta, but we just found out today that our gyms are going to be closing again on the 13th. And I was pretty disappointed because I try to work out 4 or 5 times a week. But that said, there's still things you can do outdoors. I mean, tobogganing is a pretty good workout, going down that hill and climbing back up it, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's a great workout. And then I put in the context of connection, scheduling Zoom time to connect with extended family members and friends. Again, keeping that connection during the holidays alive through the use of technology. Spiritual connection, or spiritual health and connection. Whenever, or most times, I start to talk about spiritual, people get all weird and, he's going to talk about religion. And spiritual is not religion. We're made up of a spirit. We all have a spirit, believe it or not. And I'll give you an example of how we have a spirit. I put down there, well, how is volunteering a spiritual thing? I mean, if you take your family, and I'm not sure what it's going to look like because of COVID, but you take your family down to like a homeless shelter or whatever, to donate clothes or give out meals. That's one person helping another. And when you volunteer, and there's evidence-based research that suggests when we help other people, when we volunteer our time, it does a lot for our own mental health in terms of us feeling better about ourselves, having a higher self-esteem, higher confidence. So if you have an opportunity to volunteer as a family during the 2020 holiday season, highly encourage you to do so. Volunteering doesn't mean getting in the car and going to a homeless shelter. Volunteer could mean going to your neighbors and saying, hey, we're going to shovel the walk today, or we're going to take your blue bin out for you, or the green bin out for you. Or one thing I try to do a couple times a week is volunteer compliments. If it's dad to mom, mom to dad, or dad to the kids, or to a random person on the streets, hey, that's a pretty cool shirt, or I love your hairdo, or you have beautiful eyes. When you do that, you don't know the impact you're having on that person. You might make them feel super special, and you never know if they needed to hear that. So volunteering could just mean, I'm going to volunteer a compliment to this person, or I'm going to volunteer to hold this door open for this person. So connecting as a family in the context of volunteering. Of course, spiritual health can include engaging in faith-based activities, listening to or playing music, very spiritual. Some of the kids say, how is music spiritual? And when I do therapy with kids, I ask them, who's your favorite artist? Oh, Justin Bieber. Okay, when you're, going for a walk or a run or doing whatever, and you listen to Justin Bieber, what happens? Oh, I get pumped up, I get goosebumps. And to be honest with you, some kids say, well, I listened to Justin Bieber and I was thinking about self-harm, but I listened to his music and I don't want to engage in self-harm. So then I'll ask the kids, well, do you know Justin Bieber? It's like, no. Okay, so how this is connected to spirit is there's a young man, Justin Bieber, recording a song, doing all the production, and you end up putting it on your iPod or your phone and you listen to it, and his passion and gift and talent is beneficial to you because it makes you feel a certain way. It moves you a certain way. That's one spirit, Justin Bieber, connecting with another spirit, the kid who likes Justin Bieber. So music is a very spiritual thing. I mean, I have a diverse range of different music I listen to, but I know I have a certain playlist when I'm on the treadmill. Definitely pumps me up when I'm working out, and that's that spiritual piece of music, and playing music as well. When you're playing music for people, or just if you're by yourself, if you have an artist in the family that plays an instrument, get that person on the piano and sing some carols, or play the guitar, or have a fire out back if weather permits. Of course, following all the local rules around fires in the backyard and whatnot. More spiritual things: painting, drawing, color, yoga. I usually put down doing gardening, but I don't think people are gardening unless you have a greenhouse of some sort. But those are all spiritual activities that you can do with your family on a spiritual level to stay connected. Just some ideas, and you might have other ideas around how do you stay connected with the family in a spiritual context. These are just some of the ideas as we move along. The emotional health, somewhat related to what I opened up with, but in terms of the, how do you connect emotionally with your family during the holidays? Laugh together, cry if need be. One thing there's a lot of different societal discourses out there that talk about, especially with boys, like there's the boy code where boys don't cry, men shouldn't cry. And I'm like, well, that makes no sense to me. Why do we have tear ducts if we're not supposed to cry? I know, I get it. And historically, they have a hard time expressing themselves and showing emotion. And I get that. I'm generalizing, of course. But crying is good. I mean, especially right now, that's one of the best ways to, exercise that emotional health. And if if your children or, your partners, if you feel, sorry about that. If you feel comfortable enough, being vulnerable in front of other people, your family, your friends, that's good stuff. So even if you're watching a movie, I'm a huge Seinfeld guy, and there's an episode, I'm not sure if people watch Seinfeld, but there's an episode where the character named George is watching that movie Home Alone, and his buddy Jerry walks in and sees him crying. And Jerry kind of gave him the business saying, what are you crying for? It's like, but we're emotional beings, like it or not, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So laugh over the holidays, cry when needed. You know what? People are going to be frustrated with COVID because I heard someone said, a friend of mine texted me and said, Christmas is canceled. I'm like, no, you can't have that attitude. Christmas isn't canceled. The holiday season isn't canceled. It's basically based on our perception of what this holiday season is going to look like and our attitude around how we as a family are going to make this holiday season look like. We can't let COVID, be overshadow a very special time for a lot of people. The holiday season is special for a lot of different people from diverse backgrounds. And yes, is it a little bit more restricted and a little bit unprecedented? Of course. However, at the end of the day, going back to my first slide, if we can properly, as parents, because I really, one of my mantras as a therapist, a family is only as good as its leadership, and the leadership are the parents. And if the parents are struggling with their mental and emotional health going into this 2020 holiday, it's going to impact the kids, and the connection is at risk of being lost in terms of connecting with the family. So have people, express yourself with COVID and what that means, and and just know that hopefully things are going to turn around quickly here, and we'll be back to normal hopefully in 2021. And I just put down here as a reminder, express your emotions to family and friends as needed, because you don't want to, last thing you want to do is get caught up in that circular causality where you're entertaining these thoughts and you have these irrational beliefs, perceptions, behaviors, et cetera, et cetera. So putting fuel in that emotional tank is important. Again, laugh, cry, express yourself. We're emotional beings. And when we internalize and we don't express how we feel, believe it or not, folks, we're putting stress on our body. Definitely putting stress on our body. And the more we put stress on our body, we are susceptible to diverse mental, emotional, and physical health problems. And that's not me speaking, that's the evidence speaking. I mean, as an example, there's research studies that talk about people who, hold grudges or just are angry. They're more, likely to have high blood pressure, hypertension, or have a heart attack, or develop different types of cancer, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to exercise that expression of emotion. Otherwise, we're setting ourselves up for some unpleasant times during the holidays. Again, just to give you a context, I talked about mind, body, spirit, and emotions. I really believe families, and not that you have to be perfect in these 4 areas, I really believe, based on experience and the fact that I try this with my family as well, families that can connect on those 4 levels, physical, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, they're more likely to, have trust. There's going to the trust, the respect, that feeling of mental and emotional safety. And it's just that feeling of being complete and in balance. And even to take it a step further, for couples who can, and when I do couples work, one of the things I ask is, how are you all connected on a mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical level? And those are the things that keep relationships strong and fresh and exciting. So I should have shared that first before I dove into the 4 domains, but it's important that you try your best to connect with your family in those 4 domains throughout the holidays, and even moving forward as you're moving forward throughout the holidays and into the winter. And again, if you're already doing these things with your family, keep it up. That just tells me you're a good role model for people who, are familiar with your family and the way you all connect. Good stuff. So a little bit of holiday structure and in the context of connection. We all know this is an issue for a lot of people, and my record is 17 hours a day, believe it or not. Not my record, but working with the kid who's working with the family, one of the young people during the summer months was it's like 2 years ago. 17 hours of screen time a day. Screen time meaning, on the phone, recreational screen time, video games on the phone, texting, social media, et cetera, 17 hours. And it's important to understand the younger the kids, I mean, they generally speaking, recreational screen time, especially kids, when I say kids, 4 to 15, 2 hours is a lot. I mean, even for a 4-year-old, 2 hours is a lot. But anything over 2 hours is quite a bit recreational screen time. And I know you might say, well, what else are we going to do? Well, that mind, body, spirit, and emotional things. I did not once say play video games. There's a lot of other things that people can do, parents and kids, versus, being on the phone with the electronics. So just being mindful of, establishing expectations around, okay, you're not in school, you're not going to have the same amount of structure, you're going to have a lot of free time. We've got to discuss how, how much screen time you're going to be afforded during this 2 or 3 week break. The diet piece, setting expectations around that. Like I said before, cooking together, but above and beyond that, having expectations around, again, there's a term called emotional eating, and it's a real thing. And what that basically means, some people say, oh, I'm eating out of boredom, or I'm eating out of sadness, and that's emotional eating. Because I work with a lot of kids in the weight clinic, Pediatric Center for Weight and Health Clinic, that, I have 10-year-olds telling me, yeah, I eat when I'm feeling stressed, or I eat when I'm feeling sad. And the holiday time is the prime time for, emotional eating, because there's lots of snacks around, and there's, people that, at some level doing their own thing. So the supervision might be a little bit more loose than it generally is. So it's important to, especially for the kids, based on the carb intake and the like, it's important to have, a little bit of structure around the diet and the meals. And these are conversations you can have together in the context of connection. And it's okay if if your sons or daughters are going to go out to a neighbor's, and you trust there's also the safety protocols are in place, the COVID safety protocols. Okay, what do you plan to eat while you're there? What is that going to look like? And so it's just about having those conversations around what diet's going to look like over the holidays. And then the sleep piece as well. Depending on your child's age, young people should be sleeping anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a night. And as we all know, and I trust some of you went through this. I'm not sure how old your young people are, but I do know from my son, he was when COVID hit in March, he was so out of whack and so out of routine. The kid was going to bed at like 4 a.m. Like everyone's schedule was just flip-flop for the first few weeks. And I'm like, you know what? We got to establish some new sleeping patterns, and which we eventually did. But generally speaking, even without COVID, when kids are on holiday time, schedules are a little bit looser. And for the older ones, especially, like you have a 13, 14-year-old, they're not as, they don't require as much supervision. Well, some of them may, but they don't require as much supervision around like diet and sleep. So it's easy for parents to go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then their 13-year-old is up till 1, 2 in the morning. And that's during school hours or during school time. And for, during the Christmas holiday, it's easy for kids to get into habits of going to bed at 2, 3 in the morning. And some of them get up super early, and some of them, do sleep in, and they're like night or like owls. They get up, owls. I don't know. Do owls sleep? I don't think they sleep. Anyhow, staying up all hours of the night and then sleeping in until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And where's the time to connect? So it's important to have some sort of expectation around sleep, expectations around physical activity. And I'll talk about this a little bit more in the context of having many family meetings in the next slide. So expectations around physical activity, domestic expectations. I still think it's important if kids their chores are to clean the bathroom or to vacuum, or to take out the different types, diverse bins, or the trash bin, the compost bin. I think it's important that kids, you direct young people to continue with those those structures and expectations, just to give them some form of a routine and structure during the time where routine and structure is a little bit loosey-goosey because of the holidays. And then the overall division of responsibility, and this is specifically around the diabetes piece. Are your children engaged in age-appropriate diabetes tasks and self-care? Is mom doing all the work? Is dad doing all the work? And if that's, or is there a good level, healthy level of division of responsibility amongst all? Because again, going into this unprecedented holiday season, in addition to parenting and caring for a young person that lives with a chronic illness or chronic medical condition, it can at some level jeopardize relationships in the context of people being frustrated if the kid's not doing enough, if mom's not doing enough, if dad's not doing enough. So it's important to have those, and that's when you can use the emotional tank and express, what, I feel like I'm doing everything. We need to sit down and do a systems analyst check or a systems check and figure out how can we enhance the division of responsibility when it comes to diabetes self-care or just overall parenting. just in terms of having that support. I do know there are single parents out there as well. And for those single parents, I commend you, because I was raised in a single parent, mother-headed household, and I know it's not easy. But hopefully you have some, if there are single parents out there today, hopefully you do have some supports that you can rely on in terms of that division of responsibility. And then my last slide here, getting through this quicker than I thought I would. Many family meetings to establish weekday and weekend plans during the holidays. And in the context of connection, when I work with my families that have kids with chronic conditions, what I encourage them to do is, I mean, you can pick your own day and how long you want to meet, but I encourage them to meet on Sunday. You know, it could be 15 minutes or an hour, as long as you want it to be, but meet as a family on Sunday to get ready for the week. And what I mean by getting ready for the week, okay, what activities do we have planned? How is that going to look like from a perspective of, you know, caring for, making sure our diabetes is taken care of? What's that going to look like financially? What's that going to look like in terms of time commitment? Just again, how's that going to impact, you know, homework time, or how's it going to impact, you know, us getting our, you know, domestic expectations completed? So meeting on Sunday to iron out a plan what the week's going to look like, and then meeting again on Thursday to get ready for the weekend and to evaluate how's the week been, what was the highlight, what are some areas that, you know, there were limitations, what can we do better going into the weekend, what sort of plans do we have for the weekend? So having those mini family meetings to establish plans. Excuse me, just need a drink of water. Enhance parental alliance and self-awareness. What this means is, that's, you know, again, folks, pandemic or not, holidays is a tough time for a lot of people, and it doesn't have to be. Like, there's this expectation that everything has to be perfect. We have to, you know, get all these groceries. We have to do this, that, and the other. And from my experiences, what happens during this time of year, people are so stressed that instead of pressing into each other, and what I mean by pressing into each other, parents, you know, supporting each other, the parental alliance gets a little bit compromised because people are, you know, a little bit of anxiety, there's sadness, there's mental and emotional stuff going on that just kind of infiltrates the parental alliance. And like I said before, the family is only as good as its leadership. If the parental alliance is at risk, and it's the kids are going to know right away. They're going to know something's wrong with mom, something wrong with dad, what's going on. That's going to cause them, you know, a little bit of distress. So it's important, especially this holiday season, that mom and dad sit down and say, okay, what can we do to make this one of the best holiday seasons ever, despite this silly pandemic? And I say silly because it's like, I don't respect it at all. I hate it. But what can we do? Because we're, at the end of the day, you know, the love that we have for each other and our family, that transcends the pandemic. So we have to figure out, what can we do as leaders of this family to enhance our parental alliance if we feel like it's, you know, it's getting a little loose. So that's important. And then the self-awareness piece as well. There's work. Daniel Goleman is the Daniel Goleman is the guru. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the emotional intelligence literature, but emotional intelligence, I mean, it's a 13-week course. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but they're part of emotional intelligence is just being aware, self-aware as an adult. Again, about, you know, I am aware that the holidays are a rough time for me. I am aware that I tend to withdraw during the holidays. I am aware that I know how I impact people around me. So parents, I really encourage you to exercise that self-awareness and ask yourself, going into this holiday season, is there something I can work on to make this holiday season that much more enjoyable for myself and for everyone else? So just that awareness of self, your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health, being aware of that. And if there are limitations, ask yourself, ask your partner, ask family, friends, trusted advisors, is there something I can do to, you know, improve in this area? Because I don't want it to impact this holiday season, because it's already stressful enough, folks. And then designate parental alone time. As we all know, you know, again, I don't know the ages of the young people out, or the young people you're parenting, but it does, I do know from 11 years of experience in diabetes, it does consume a lot of energy. And it's not just the practical day-to-day stuff of tending to diabetes, it's the, you know, the emotional and mental toll it takes about worrying about your child and making sure they're safe and healthy, or am I going to get a text from the school today, or, So I know there's a lot of mental, emotional, and physical and spiritual energy that goes into parenting a young person living with type 1 diabetes. So if at all possible, and I'm not good with excuses because hopefully there's always time, and it's important that parents, recharge their batteries and spend some intimate time alone. And intimate time meaning, watching a movie together, going for a walk together, spending some alone time, complimenting each other, doing random acts of kindness for each other. Because at the end of the day, like I said, if parents are, role modeling that, the importance of connecting during the holiday time and setting that expectations, the kids are more likely to fall in line with that framework. So the mini family meetings, parental self-awareness, and then, and enhanced parental alliance. So pressing into each other. It's just interesting how when there's adversity, sometimes the parents, they go in different directions instead of pressing into each other for support. And that's very important that you press into each other during this holiday season anyhow. And then to designate that parental alone time so you two can, the parents or the caregivers can recharge their batteries. And even for those single parents, if you do have someone that can, watch the kids for an hour, half an hour, or whatever the case may be, so you can recharge your batteries if there are single parents out there, to have some alone time and, take care of your own health as well. So that is it. Let me, hopefully this doesn't cut everyone out. Okay, there we go. So that's, I think I went a few minutes over, but that's a quick and dirty of some ideas to help stay connected during the holiday season. I'll turn it back over to Danielle if there's any questions that people might have.
Right, so yeah, we can definitely open it up. We have about 10 minutes left if anyone does have a particular question that they would like to ask. And maybe as well, while if anyone's gathering their thoughts, we did have 2 questions that were submitted at previous to the meeting. And the first one here is in relation to, I think, a really interesting activity for families, which is winter camping. And the question that came through was how to keep your daily insulin warm so it doesn't freeze. And if you take spare insulin pens, how do you keep them cold? Is a cooler sufficient? And so before, I don't know, Michael, if you do have anything you want to add, but I will just say that would be something where we would refer you back to your medical team, who can provide you with exactly the details on that. And Michael, I don't know if there would be anything you'd want to add in any context there.
I do know if left in extreme cold, it can damage the insulin. So I would, if you do go on winter camping excursions, I would certainly connect with your multidisciplinary team at the diabetes clinic and give them your plans, and they'll give you expert advice around how to properly and safely store all things related to diabetes. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, and what a really fun activity. That's a great activity to get outside in the winter.
For sure it is.
And the second question that we had is, are there any resources that people with diabetes can tap into to help them keep motivated when they're not able to feel up to it? And I think you mentioned quite a few, but any additional thoughts on that?
I don't want to self-promote, but I do a lot of work around, just from my work in the Pediatric Center for Weight and Health. As you can, and a lot of those kids have comorbid conditions. Some of them have type 2 diabetes. Some of them have, other like mood and anxiety issues as well. So the motivation is like insecurities around wanting to go outside and be active because of their weight. So I do a lot of work around, looking at the barriers to being a little bit more motivated. So Danielle has my contact info. If anyone wants to shoot me an email and think of brainstorm some ideas, I'd certainly be open to giving you some ideas around how to motivate and engage your child. To be honest with you, folks, in the context of that question, it starts with the leadership. Leadership meaning if kids are having a hard time motivation, it's about, what, we are going to, even if it's 15 minutes a day or 15 minutes every other day, we're going to go out for a walk, and then just build on that. The next time it's 20 minutes or 16 minutes or 18 minutes, or so just building on that and having having an interest in, the young person in terms of being a little bit more physically active. because there's a lot of parents I work with where my kid's not motivated, this, that, and the other, and then the family, the parents are sitting at home on their screens and not doing anything. So what do you expect a kid to do if you're not engaged with them? So I would say it starts with role modeling and being a part, meeting them where they're at and being a part of that activity with them to heighten the sense of motivation. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Susan has just put a great comment. Thank you, Susan, in the chat as well. JDRF, we do have, it's called our Talk T1D, and it is a peer support program as well. So if anyone was looking for, it's run by volunteers, yay, volunteers, who have lived experience, and we do a matching to find the best match between mentor and mentee. So thank you so much for mentioning that, Susan. So that's another resource that we do have available as well.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And does anyone else want to either ask a question or any more questions in the chat? All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining today. And Michael, before we go, did you have any final parting thoughts?
No, I really hope you all have a great holiday season. And like I said, it's about attitude. I really believe connection with family and the love and support that you afford each other during the holiday season, it can at some level transcend the restrictions of COVID. So do your best. I encourage you all to do your best to connect with your family on the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical levels, and not just during the holidays, but moving forward into the new year. Because I think the more your young person's mental health is taken care of, it makes things a lot easier in terms of managing and living with diabetes on a day-to-day basis. So I just encourage you to stay connected as possible. And I did want to share this. If you do have extended family members, I always share this as a joke, and then I'll be done. I talk to my students about, I love my family, my extended family, but it doesn't necessarily mean I like them all. So you might have some extended family members. I'm sure you love them. And if you don't like them, that's okay, but try your best to connect with them anyhow. But I just think I wanted to share that, because that's sometimes the dislike we might have for certain family members that gets in the way of that connection. And you got to ask yourself, what message are we sending our kids, if that's the case. So if you do feel like you dislike a family member, that's okay. Because I know you still love I trust you love your family. Loving and liking are two separate things, but I would ask that you, especially this holiday season, try to connect with those family members you normally don't connect with for whatever reason. And I think that'll be good for you, your mental health, and for their mental health as well. And good demonstration of role modeling to your kids around the importance of connecting with family and friends. So that's all I wanted to say. Amazing. Oh, and last but not least, sorry, and I always do this with my diabetes crowd. I really respect what you all do in terms of making sure your children are healthy, because I work in different chronic illnesses, but I know diabetes is something that has to be tended to on a day-to-day basis. And I just know the mental and emotional and practical impact it can have. So I really admire and respect the work that the work you do to keep your children safe, especially during this pandemic. So I just keep pressing on, and make sure you talk to someone as needed if you feel you need to express how you're feeling, because it's not easy. And I respect the work that y'all do to keep your kids healthy. So that's all I wanted to end with. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, once again, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. And so this is actually our last education series for 2020, but I just wanted to say once again that in the new year, we are going to have Flash GM Night, which will be coming up on January 19th. And then stay tuned. In March, we will be having an RDSP and T1D and your finances. So check out jdrf.ca for more information when we get the exact date for that. And we'll send out, we'll send out a follow-up with a link to the video recording on our YouTube page. And then also, I just want to give a huge thank you once again to our sponsors who do sponsor the Let's Talk T1D series. This is Insulet Canada, Medtronic, Novo Nordisk, Tandem Diabetes Care, and Ypsomed Diabetes Care. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to offer this this programming. So thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you once again, Michael, and everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the year and an amazing start to 2021. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.
Take care. Danielle, I'll be in touch with you and Ruth probably tomorrow via email.
That sounds wonderful.
Okay, have a lovely
Thank
evening.
you guys again.
Bye-bye.